Lori Vanderploot, the Director of the Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. Thank you for joining us today for our first in a series of upcoming webinars, highlighting resources that you may find useful as teachers, providers, parents, and others who are providing services to our infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their families during these challenging times. These webinars will focus on ready-to-use resources, tools, and practices from OSEP-funded grantees to support the educational, developmental, behavioral, and social-emotional needs of infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities through remote and distance learning. With the extended school closures occurring across the country, many states, districts, and schools are now delivering instruction remotely, while parents, families, and students are having to learn in entirely new ways, facing challenges we could not predict. During this time, it is critical to provide continuity of learning and opportunities for growth for all children and youth, particularly those with disabilities. To do this, we need to improve how we support schools, teachers, providers, families, and students with disabilities to ensure that those have been disproportionately impacted by the shift to remote and distance learning have access to a high quality instruction and services that fit their individualized needs. We have heard from many teachers, providers, and parents about the numerous challenges they are facing during this time. We have also heard about the incredible, innovative, and creative ways that teachers and providers are connecting with families and students and providing quality services and learning opportunities. From sign language through front doors and windows, to driveway math lessons in chalk, to virtual choral readings and music classes. But one of the biggest challenges we have heard is how to sort through the many materials now available and flooding inboxes on a daily basis to determine which ones are the most useful for what children under what circumstances. I am so proud of the response from OSEP's funded investments. Most of them are directed by and staffed by formal special education teachers, providers, administrators, and parents. These teams immediately got to work to organize and develop key resources and information through products and webinars to help those on the front line navigating the abrupt end to our school year and the new reality and challenges of remote instruction. I also want to acknowledge the collaborations among projects, especially those working with our parent centers, to ensure we get information to teachers to assist parents and directly to parents to assist them as much as possible with navigating this period of home instruction. We've gathered all those resources for easy access. Resources for children K-12 can be found at the National Center for Systemic Improvement. Resources for early intervention and early childhood could be found at the Early Childhood Technical Assistance Center. And you may also find links to all these resources at the OSEP Ideas That Work site, where you registered for this webinar. We will continue to post new resources as we move forward to returning to school. We know this current situation presents challenges for all families, and particularly for families of students with disabilities, who are taking on a significant role in supporting their children in remote learning and distance instruction. To assist teachers and parents in sorting through all the information available and navigating their new role, OSEP developed 2 briefs that provide evidence-based and promising practices to support continuity of learning for students with disabilities and implementation examples for families and teachers. Links to these briefs and websites will be included later in this presentation. Today, I've invited several of our funded projects to share information about some of the materials we think you will find useful. Our plan is to continue to share resources through websites, additional webinars, as we transition through the summer and move on to exploring what getting back to school will look like. After you hear about the first set of products, we'll have a Q&A with most of our presenters and some of our OSEP staff about this set of resources. Please enter your question about the products in the chat. You may also enter suggestions for specific resources you would like or need, and we will do our best to continue to assist you. Thank you in advance to the presenters and staff helping to develop this webinar. And most importantly, as a parent of a child with disabilities and a formal special education teacher and administrator, a most humble and sincere thank you for all of your efforts as you continue to provide services to our infants, toddlers, children and youth with disabilities and their families. Stay safe and stay healthy.
OSEP has designated the ECTA Center as the national hub for information and resources specific to IDEA early childhood programs during the COVID-19 pandemic. In response, we have gathered resources from across TA centers, federal agencies, and states, and created topical sections on COVID-19 and remote service delivery and distance learning to our website. These icons expand additional pages underneath a topic. Families can find useful information on supporting their child's learning and development at home across both topics. Some key items from our family resources include this practice guide on encouraging child learning and early activities, a module supporting learning during COVID-19 from the IRIS Center, and tip sheets on supporting social emotional development from NCPMI. Under the COVID-19 page, parents can find information on talking to children about the virus and coping with change. Moving to providers and educators, our page on the use of technology helps practitioners and educators engage and prepare families for remote service delivery and distance learning. It includes presentations from the Peel Center and NCPMI, video illustrations of remote home visits using family-guided routines and family coaching, and online modules from the National Center for Hearing Assessment and Management. For state and local administrators, this page on technology and privacy provides information on FERPA and HIPAA, and additional pages on reimbursement of remote service delivery by Medicaid and private insurance. We continue to collect the latest guidance and information from state IDEA early childhood programs in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our page on COVID-19 focuses on resources specific to state and local administrators, including the latest guidance from the U.S. Departments of Education and Health and Human Services, the Center for Medicaid Services, and the CDC. Additional resources are also included for small businesses and useful links to other national organizations' COVID-19 responses. We've compiled a list of frequently asked questions regarding the delivery of IDEA early childhood services during COVID-19, which provides answers as well as points out some of the most useful items across all these pages. As states emerge from the initial wave of COVID-19, we've developed a page on reopening school systems and considerations for Part C programs as they increase in-person activities and make infrastructure adjustments to do so. Thank you for your attention. We will continue to work to support state IDEA early childhood programs with updates to these pages. Find us online at ectacenter.org.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in today to learn more about the great resources produced by the Technical Assistance Centers funded by the Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. My name is Michelle Robins, and I'm the Deputy Director of the National Center for Systemic Improvement, or NCSI. NCSI has been asked by OSEP to serve as the hub for COVID-19 resources to support students with disabilities. So we have collected all of the COVID-19 specific and distance learning resources that have been developed across the OSEP TA Center network. So if you visit our website, ncsi.westa.org, here's what you will see. Here's our NCSI homepage. If you scroll down below the banner, you'll see on the left-hand side several categories: COVID-19 policy guidance, distance learning, and telepractice teletherapy. We'll get back to those in a minute, but before we dive deeper, I wanted to point out some of the links on the right. The first one takes you to the Comprehensive Center Network site, where they are collecting resources and materials for across the general education funded centers. The second one is the Early Childhood TA Center site, where you can find resources for the birth to 5 population. And for links to Parent Center resources, click here to go to the Center for Parent Information and Resources, CIPR, or the Parent Center Hub. Additionally, on the right side, you will see a place to submit questions or suggestions about resources to NCSI. And if you have legal questions that merit a response from the U.S. Department of Education, that link is also provided. Now back to the left. If you click on the first category, COVID-19 policy guidance, you will find links that take you to the federal and state policy guidance, as well as links to state pages with specific guidance for students with disabilities. These links are updated regularly as states add more information for their stakeholders. If you click on the second link, you will get to distance learning resources. You can see that there are 4 subcategories, including how to provide distance learning, instructional resources, support for families, or virtual PD. Additionally, there are additional filters below where you can further refine your search to get closer to resources or a resource that meets your needs. The third link is to the telepractice teletherapy topic area, with subtopics including speech and language, behavioral, and social emotional. This is the smallest part of our library so far, but we continue to collect more resources weekly to fill this out in all parts of our library. As new resources are developed, centers continue to submit them to us, so our library will continue to grow. I hope this has been helpful to you. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if we can help you find something or answer any additional questions. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tracy Evans, and I'm the director of the New England Consortium on Deafblindness, serving the states of Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. This presentation will provide a brief overview of NEC's COVID-19 focused resources for children with combined vision and hearing loss, also known as deafblindness. At the beginning of our process in the late March, early April, we realized that our original coaching procedures were too intensive and developed for instruction in controlled environments, very different than home environments with exhausted parents and numerous siblings. In essence, we needed to find a way to help teams focus on strategies that could be embedded into the routines that parents were already doing for their children in the land of Zoom and COVID-19. Our primary focus over the past 2 months has been on the development of intervention plans or templates. We wanted to create concise templates that were simple and easy to use, representative of daily family routines, use key components that were the same regardless of the target scale, and included simple evaluation procedures. Some of these routines targeted topics such as greetings, initiating conversations, toileting, eating, dressing, toothbrushing, selecting preferred activities. To begin the process, we collaborate virtually with the team to individualize the template based on child and family needs. Most importantly, we emphasize plans that can be changed or discontinued at any time. We have found that weekly or bi-weekly meetings are helpful in addressing what's working, what's not, and making timely revisions. This work is ongoing, and we've been adapting and changing our series of templates. One might ask how these intervention plans are different for those developed for other children with special needs. From our perspective, working with children who are deafblind, their families, and service providers, the primary factors are around determining the sensory supports necessary to enhance the child's access to learning. That being vision, hearing, tactile motor accommodations, and approaches. Here's the basic structure of each intervention plan template that is individualized for the child and family with 4 key components: initial considerations such as learning history, sensory supports, materials, the actual steps of the routine, and evaluation, whether informal or formal depending on the situation. In terms of final thoughts and final plans, we are continuing to build a collection of intervention plan templates focused on daily routines that can be used across a variety of children's situations, families, and cultures. Our hope is that these intervention plans will soon be used back in the classroom and continued at home. Through this journey during COVID-19, we have learned that simple, concise information is certainly better. And along the way, several parents have expressed a new willingness to address home-based routines while others are overwhelmed with Zoom meetings and not enough time to regroup and care for themselves. It's a delicate balance, and our families and teams inform our decision-making every day, and for that, we're very grateful. Thank you.
To support educators, families, youth, and related stakeholders during the recent COVID-19 pandemic, the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, NTAC, presented a series of webinars in collaboration with our partners from the Workforce Innovation and Technical Assistance Center, WINTAC, related to distance and virtual learning. The focus of the April 7th webinar was employment preparation and work-based learning experiences in a virtual world. The April 14th webinar addressed strategies and resources for students with complex support needs in distance learning environments. Both of these closed captioned webinars are located on the Transition Coalition website, transitioncoalition.org, under the Ask the Experts section, or by clicking on the links provided on this slide. Each of these presentations also include a copy of the PowerPoint and related resources. The webinar on work-based learning experiences in a virtual world included information regarding maintaining effective partnerships, coordination and delivery of work-based learning experiences, and activities and resources for implementing remote work-based learning experiences. The session, focused on students with complex support needs, included a discussion regarding supported decision-making, guidance for families, strategies for educators, employment preparation and engagement strategies, and healthcare considerations. After viewing either of these webinars, if you're interested, you can participate in an ongoing discussion regarding these topics on the Transition Coalition website. If you are interested in additional materials associated with these webinars, including a related question and answer document, please visit the COVID-19 resources page on the NTAC website, transitionta.org.
AIM Center resources for remote learning. The AIM Center has you covered if you're looking for resources to support students who need accessible materials and technologies while they're learning remotely during the COVID-19 crisis. To get started, go to our website at aem.cas.org, and near the top of the page, select the link "We are here to help" under the AIM for Remote Learning section. This will take you to the Resources for Access and Distance Education page, which provides a nice entry point to the many resources available on the AIM Center website. For example, under Accessibility Practices for Teachers, you'll find AIM Center resources around specific topics such as reading supports, the creation of high-quality and accessible video to support instruction, creating accessible documents, and making math accessible. And we'll continue adding to this list of topics in the future as more resources are developed. This page also includes the latest guidance from the U.S. Department of Education, links to different contacts within each state where more information about accessible educational materials and assistive technology can be located, information about other OSEP-funded centers that can be resources for families and learners, and finally, we have a section called Continuing Conversations where we've linked to a number of resources that we found helpful from the web. Let's take a look at some of these resources in more detail. The Personalizing the Reading Experience section of our website has detailed information on the many options that are available to learners and families to customize their reading environments on the devices that many of them already have available at home. Throughout this section, there are a number of embedded videos that shows step-by-step directions for how to use the built-in features, apps, and extensions discussed in the text. And these videos are closed captioned for accessibility. The Creating Accessible Documents page shows how, with a few simple steps, educators can create accessible resources that will work well with the technologies that learners are using in their homes. And this page also has a number of videos available that demonstrate step-by-step directions for how to implement each accessibility best practice. There are many more resources for you to explore on our website, and you can use our robust search feature to look for topics that are of specific interest to you. Our website's address is aem.cas.org, and we welcome you to reach out to us if you have any questions at any time. Our email address is aem@cas.org.
Hi, I'm Lisa Fox, and I'm the Principal Investigator for the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations, funded by the Office of Special Education Programs. The National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations builds the capacity of states, programs, and personnel to implement a multi-tiered system of support for promoting young children's social, emotional, and behavioral development. We are a source of materials that can assist professionals as they support families during COVID-19. One resource that our teachers at preschool classrooms requested was for guidance on how to conduct calls with families that are family-centered, helpful, and organized for providing families with information on guiding their child's learning and responding to social, emotional, and behavioral needs. This fact sheet provides a structure for those calls. A resource that provides important messages for families of young children is the tips for supporting yourself during the pandemic. These strategies are organized around families noticing their feelings, ways to stay calm, seeking support, being careful about what information young children are exposed to, and developing routines and expectations that will be supportive for the child and the family. Another resource breaks down effective strategies for helping the young child cope during this difficult time. Strategies are provided for responding to children's emotions, teaching children self-regulation skills, structuring routines, and responding to changes in the child's behavior. We've provided similar information in a format that might be used by an app or sent via smartphone for programs providing information in those ways. Finally, we have resources that can be helpful for families as they help children cope with stress and changes in routines. Tucker the Turtle is used in many of our preschool classrooms to teach children self-regulation skills, and we've designed a version that can be used at home. The Problem Solver scripted story helps children learn problem-solving skills and select solutions. We offer a solution kit for families within the book. And we have a calm down chart that helps children select appropriate calm down strategies when they have strong emotions. I hope you will take the time to view and share these resources and sign up for our newsletter or follow us on social media so that you can learn about the new resources as they are posted. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lazarus, and I'm the director of TIES Center, which is the National Technical Assistance Center on Inclusive Practices and Policies for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. Today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the new distance learning series the TIES Center has developed. These are a whole set of electronic publications that provide lots of things that we hope was helpful during distance learning. The items in these series are designed to help students with the most significant cognitive disabilities get through these new transitions, engage fully in academics online, and interact with their teachers and peers. There's currently a number of resources already available, and we are continually adding additional ones. They are all available on the TIES website, www.tiescenter.org, and check back regularly for the new resources. Today, I'd like to highlight two of these resources. The first one I want to tell you a little bit about is one titled Effective Specially Designed Instruction Within the Distance Learning Environment. What in the world does it look like? This resource is designed to help educators as they grapple with some of the many questions that are out there right now related to specially designed instruction. It provides a number of tips for educators on providing specially designed instruction with both high-tech and low-tech options. The resource also talks a little bit about how to collect data in an online distance learning environment, and while recognizing that data may not look exactly the same as it has in the past. The other resource that I'd like to tell you just a little bit about is one titled Getting Unstuck, Tips to Help Your Child If They Get Stuck with Their Remote Learning. This resource is for parents, and as with all kids, children with significant cognitive disabilities sometimes get frustrated with distance learning, and they get stuck. This resource is designed to help them get unstuck by offering strategies and tips for parents to support their children through the distance learning experience. Please check out all the resources we have available at www.tiescenter.org, and thank you.
The next resource is specific for distance learning or remote instruction. How do we take those good PBIS practices once again and think about using that for remote learning? And so as we do that, what we want to do is we walk you through how to build a teaching matrix or an expectations matrix for distance learning or distance instruction. So some of the quick tips that we've got is number one, keep your same school-wide expectations. We want to keep some consistency. This is going to be especially important for students who are used to different expectations for their behavior at home, and they're not used to doing as much schoolwork or school-related things. And so being able to give that consistent language across is going to be particularly helpful. So then one of the things you'd see, instead of settings across the school, you've got different routines. Entering class, teacher-led whole group instruction if you're doing that, one-on-one instruction, and small group activities. And one of the things that we think is really important is that you think about, number one, what are the online specific behaviors that you need to teach? You know, whether that's how to use your audio, what are expectations for using video, and so on. But also, how do you kind of recreate online some of the important social and teacher-student connections systems that you have at school? So, you know, what does it look like? Think about what does it look like to greet students at the door when they come in online, or when you're doing a morning meeting with students. Figuring out how to replicate that so you can have those positive student-teacher interactions are key. And then a few tips in moving forward. Number one is figuring out how to take those same evidence-based practices that you use for instruction, whether that be opportunities to respond, whether that be figuring out how you're going to deliver specific praise to the whole group, how you're going to do that in private chat, thinking about how to respond to student behavior, because we know that if you kick a student out of your online instruction or distance instruction, there is an incredibly high likelihood that they will not log back in the next time you want them back in. So excluding students more than ever is completely ineffective in getting students to attend.
Hello, I'm Deborah Jennings, and welcome to the ParentCenterHub.org. I am pleased to share with you a collection of resources developed in response to the coronavirus pandemic by the Center for Parent Information and Resources in partnership with 5 centers funded by the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Special Education Programs. These centers are CADRE, the National Center for Systemic Improvement, the Progress Center, and our colleagues at F&D and the Wisconsin Bassett's Parent Centers. As a result of school closures and physical distancing, holding in-person meetings has not been advisable, but that doesn't mean that important meetings, including meetings related to IEPs, mediation, resolution sessions, and due process hearings can't happen. Individuals are coming together to meet virtually using conference calls or web-based platforms like Google Meets, Zoom, Skype, Teams, and others for all kinds of meetings, including those related to students' individualized education programs. We hope the tools in this collection are helpful to all who host or participate in virtual meetings. On our virtual IEP meeting tip sheets webpage, you will find first an infographic on participating in virtual meetings. This resource gives you technology tips, suggestions for what to do before the meeting, and participation tips, all on this handy one-pager. You will also find a resource which includes 5 virtual IEP meeting tip sheets for both hosts and participants. In addition to suggestions for minimizing technology aggravations, there are also recommendations to use before, during, and after that will help meetings be effective. It also includes links to student rights to privacy resources. Finally, for your convenience, we have a sample virtual meeting agenda available in English and Spanish. This one-pager suggests an agenda for a 60-minute meeting. It describes possible roles for members, it offers some meeting norms, and lists topics to cover during the meeting, along with suggested times to devote to each topic. These guides and tip sheets are part of a comprehensive suite of resources on the Parent Center Hub's COVID-19 webpage.
My dearest sister Virginia, our local Safer at Home initiative has been extended yet again, and there is, I fear, no end in sight. With the children's school closed, it has fallen to Jonathan and myself to see to their learning. This has proven more easily said than done. As we strive to support their education, we are beset by woes on all sides. This day, the Wi-Fi bombs out. Another day, the children are distracted and quarreling amongst themselves. Jonathan speaks loudly into his phone during virtual reading class, and twice has wandered before the camera in naught but a bathing towel, such that we are the talk of all the town. I fear our fortitude has weakened. Twice I have plunked the children down in front of the television with a bucket of silly dough and called it art class. Whatever can we do? If only there were help from our friends at the Iris Center.
In fact, there is. Created with parents in mind, our module, Parents Supporting Learning During the COVID-19 Pandemic, is designed to lend a helping hand during a time of shared uncertainty and anxiety about the future. Let's have a closer look. Beginning with a challenge video that parents tell us connects with what many of them are facing right now. The resource is then broken into specific topic areas, allowing parents to quickly navigate to whatever interests them most. Whether it be learning more about their role in supporting their children's learning at home, information about reading and mathematics instruction, or maintaining social and emotional well-being, the resources here are presented in a way that is easy to read, non-technical, and encouraging. Each section addresses common challenges and other simple strategies for meeting and overcoming them. Page 1 of the module emphasizes that supporting learning does not mean parents have to take on the role of the teacher, recreate the school day, or teach an entire lesson. Page 2 offers practical tips for creating learning spaces and setting a routine while also maintaining expectations for behavior. And although students with special learning needs are addressed throughout the module, page 7 is specifically for the parents of children with disabilities. Regardless of the topic, this module reminds parents to adapt and make changes as needed. If something didn't work, it's okay to try something else. It may take several tries to figure everything out. That's normal. Parents Supporting Learning During the COVID-19 Pandemic is a helpful resource. It's also a reminder of the things that bind us together as people: concern for our children and an understanding of the vital importance of their continued education and well-being, even in unfamiliar circumstances. In the end, what we lean on is one another.
Thank you to all of the OSEP centers for sharing these resources and strategies, and to all our engaged stakeholders for joining us today. We had an extraordinary response to this offering, and we are already working to develop future webinars that will highlight additional resources and share how they are being used. Our purpose for this webinar and future ones is to highlight some of the resources our funded centers have produced to support the incredible work of teachers, providers, and parents. Thank you for the questions you have been sharing. We will now begin responding to them. You may continue to submit your questions through the question box. So the first question today is for Naomi from the IRIS Center. This question addresses a concern from many teachers and parents. The IRIS module looks helpful, but I'm already pressed for time. Do I have to work through the entire module, or do I have to do the module all in one setting?
So those are great questions. With regards to the first one, the answer is no, you do not need to work through the entire module. But before I go further, I know that a lot of the folks who are watching are familiar with IRIS, and they have absolutely had to work through an entire module in college or for professional learning on their job. So let me clarify a little bit more. Typical IRIS instructional modules are carefully scaffolded so that the learner starts at the beginning of the module on page 1, page 2 builds on the information from page 1, page 3 builds on that, and so on. So by the end of the module, you've worked through a carefully sequenced instructional process and come away with a depth of knowledge about that topic. This module is different. We developed this one knowing that exhausted parents are short on time. They're juggling roles tied to caregiving, supporting their child's learning, dealing with demands of work, addressing health and safety issues tied to COVID-19, and so much more. So we also developed it knowing that every parent's needs are different. So this module allows parents to pick only the topics that are of interest or that they need at that particular moment. So if your child struggles to maintain focus, or you need easy ways to have, say, several children working at the kitchen table at the same time without distracting each other, you can click on the page on how do I get my child ready to learn and only work through that page. The module is self-guided and you only access the information you need or want. As far as the second part of that, do you have to do the module all in one sitting? No, not at all. It's meant to be a flexible resource, something you can return to time and time again. So maybe you've worked through information on getting your child ready to learn and you realize now you need some more information to support your child's reading. You can come back and get that information. Each page goes into, well, parents have the option to go into as much depth as they want. Each topic area provides a summary or overview with links to additional layers or depth of information. So maybe you only have time to get a cursory overview of a topic. You can read through that in 5 minutes. Then later you decide you need more details. You can come back to the module and dig deeper. It's all self-guided, self-paced based on your individual needs and circumstances.
Thank you. Michelle from NCSI. As a state leader trying to make decisions, how would I find guidance that other states have made available regarding educating students with disabilities during this time?
Thanks, Lori. That's a great question. We've been so impressed with the great resources that SEA staff and directors have been sharing with each other. There's really no need for anyone to be reinventing the wheel. There's a lot of great information out there. What's currently available on our site at ncsi.wested.org, if you click on the COVID-19 guidance, either in the banner or right below it, you'll see 3 options: federal, state, and state for students with a disabilities focus. If you select that filter, you'll see all the links to all of the states who have guidance that is specific to educating kids with disabilities. That information is updated regularly as states continue to add resources to share with each other and with anyone who's looking. We'll also, hot off the press, we'll have available next week a Google document that will provide links to each state's guidance on COVID-19, the school reopening plans, the summer plans, extended services, continuity of instruction plans. That resource is being designed as a Google Doc to be updated regularly, and the link will be posted on our site and shared with OSEP to post with the resources from this call. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Kent from our PBIS Center. Managing behavior in a real classroom is often a challenge. How do you use high leverage behavior support practices in distance instruction?
Thanks, Lori. High leverage practices are going to look different in distance instruction, but they can still be just as effective as long as we know why these practices work and what technology we can use to recreate them. So I'll give a few examples. One of them is positive greetings at the door. We know that it works really well, but you don't actually need a physical door to do that. The most important part in the way that it works is because students feel welcome as soon as they come in. So we can recreate that by using waiting rooms or by using chat comments, or especially as we start thinking about reopening schools, what does a positive greeting at the door look like when we're not going to stand within 6 feet? We're not going to give that fist bump. It really has to do with the way that we communicate. We're going to have to be able to use our communication, our verbal communication, when especially our faces are behind masks when we're talking with our students. Another is opportunities to respond. Lots of ways we can use technology, whether it's chat, choral responding, quizzes to ensure that we're following and monitoring students' progress and seeing how well they're doing. And then another is behavior-specific praise. We know that works because we're acknowledging students' successes and reinforcing those steps towards improved outcomes. Now, this might look like a statement for the whole class. It might look like something provided in private chat. But one of the things that we know is really important is when we look at the research in brick and mortar schools, it tells us that there are some student groups where we don't provide as much behavior-specific praise, as much opportunities to respond. And that's students with disabilities, and that's students of color, particularly Black students, and also English learners. So what's really important is that we use some systems to track how we're providing these high leverage practices equitably across students. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Michael from NTACT. During this time of separation, what suggestions do you have regarding how to best engage students in virtual community-based learning experiences?
It's a great question, and as states are still trying to, come back online and engage their communities and their businesses, it has been difficult. But in the April 7th webinar that we presented, we talked about what opportunities existed and listed some really nice products. Some of the highlights from Washington State is a T-Folio product, which is a portfolio tool for high school age students with disabilities. And the tool was developed with the Washington State vocational rehab system, and it provides work-based learning experiences and one of the units of the online tool. A for-cost product that a number of states have been using is virtualjobshadow.com, and states are using that across the board in their education and VR systems. And this completely online resource uses a unique video-based job shadowing and career planning platform that empowers students to discover, plan, and explore career options. And I know some school districts, LEAs, are using that as part of their ESY for the summer, the virtual job shadowing. A few free of cost resources include online career tours and virtual industry tours that the Nebraska Department of Vocational Rehab and their education department created. And the U.S. Department of Labor's Career One-Stop Videos and My Skills, My Future website, as well as there's a really pretty cool YouTube channel called Road Trip Nation, and the Khan Academy has a number of really great resources on their website. So I think hopefully those will steer people in the right direction.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Megan from NCPMI. This is for our young children whose routines have been upended. What are some resources to help families address the behavioral challenges of young children that might be related to staying at home, the loss of routines, having activities restricted, family stress, and all the other changes?
That's right. When you think about that long list that you just named, and young children who thrive on predictability, consistency, and being with their peers, routines have been upended. Our goal at NCPMI was to really develop and compile pandemic-related resources that would help families kind of build upon their capacity to help children cope with that long list of things you talked about that are adding to family stress right now. A great starting point resource was shared earlier in the webinar. It's a handout called Helping Your Children During the Pandemic. This resource includes tips that can help families look at what are the prevention things I can put in place right now. Think about like those protective factors at home. Is that also links to other resources within our website. So it's a great starting point. I know it can be very overwhelming for families when they're looking for resources. So it's a great starting point and includes tips on helping children feel safe, tips for planning their day at home, and ideas for helping children have choices and use individual schedules, things that we know work for young children, and also ways to add in kind of a sense of predictability at home, and also tips for caregivers to be able to process those big feelings that children are experiencing right now. So within our center's website, we have a family engagement kind of section within our website that has all of these resources that can help with those tips right now. And they're really accessible, and they're things that families can access and can start using right away. So some of these things are scripted stories, not only about the pandemic, but also resources to help families kind of process the big emotions that children are feeling right now. We talked about the Tucker Turtle takes time to think earlier in the webinar. You were shown that. Those are great scripted stories that can help children right now at home kind of process and understand those big feelings. We also have resources that family can access about talking about feelings with feeling faces, emotional check-ins, because they're feeling things like sadness, confusion, or frustration. And we also have, lastly, resources that really work on self-regulation and calming strategies. So things like deep breathing, relaxation thermometers, calm down choices, all things that families can access to really help them kind of support their children at home. And we're continuing to develop new resources on a regular basis. So we encourage those who are supporting young children to check in frequently at NCPMI to access those resources. Thanks,
Great.
Lori.
Yeah, thank you. Cheryl from the TIES Center. We've all experienced fatigue from virtual meetings. For our students with significant cognitive disabilities, are there some strategies that can be used during distance education to engage learners when they are frustrated?
That's a great question. It can be really challenging when children get frustrated during distance education. And families may need help with academic learning. Sometimes they feel like they lack the time and energy to help their child. But there are some strategies that can help a child learn more independently. One thing that can help is to identify the main goal or purpose of an assignment, and then to think about how to be flexible and how to get there. It can also be helpful to break bigger tasks into smaller chunks. And then finally, families should be sure to just find some time to join learning, to find time to have fun together. This time of distance learning is incredibly challenging, but it also can be an opportunity to learn new routines, new ways of learning, and that can be empowering to everyone.
Great, thank you. Deborah from the Parents Center. Many parents will identify with this question. As a parent of a 5th grade child with disabilities, I need more help to know how to help her and her school assignments. Are there additional resources for parents?
So first, let me say you are not alone. There are hundreds of thousands of parents who are having those same struggles. And so with that in mind, my recommendation to you is that you connect. First, if your child is still in school or there's still expectations for learning, first connect with your teacher. The teachers and other professionals in the school are always the best first stop to find out how to help your child. They were working with your child for a number of months before school closures, and they probably have some really good strategies and resources that they can say that they can point you to. The second place to connect is to connect with your parent center. Every state has at least one parent center, and these parent centers are staffed with parents just like you, parents who have children with learning challenges, that have children with disabilities, and who know what your struggles are. So do connect with your parent center. You can find them on a list in parentcenterhub.org, find your center. And each of them has really been doing a great job of collecting information about local resources to help families to be more successful, particularly during this COVID-19 pandemic. And the third thing is that if school is out, connect in your community, find some fun things to do, whether it's recreation or some cultural explorations, or community service is a great way for a 10-year-old to really learn and to begin to learn what their role is in their community and in their nation.
Great, thank you. Tracy, from one of our state deaf-blind projects, what strategies have you used to engage parents in using consistent routines at home?
Hi, in our work with families of children who are deaf-blind, we found that where you start really does matter in engaging families in home routines. And we found the following strategies to be helpful. For example, first interviewing families about what they want to focus on over a shorter time frame. We're all used to these big annual goals. So an initial interview question may be, if we were to start today, what's that one consistent home routine that you'd like to focus on over the summer? Next is offering options. So some of our families want just simple examples of routines that they could work on, whereas others want much more intensive ongoing coaching. And then as it relates to the actual routines themselves, developing those routines with very, very simple 3 to 4 steps with a beginning, middle, and an end, and outlining those routines that include strategies related to the population that we serve that really focuses on sensory access as it relates to communication, vision, hearing, and tactile features that help support the child to engage in the routine. We're also finding that morning and evening routines seem to be the easiest for families right now to address and seem to be the most consistent that they can work on. And of course, engaging siblings within that routine is really important. And we've had some great fun in terms of bringing siblings along, and some of them are certainly our best teachers. And then weekly family Zoom meetings where we connect families with other parents who have children with similar issues has been really helpful so that they can support each other, share ideas, talk about what's worked and what hasn't worked in the past. And then I think finally providing regular ongoing feedback and really accepting at this point that any level of engagement is okay. And that our ultimate goal right now is to provide information and support that really meets families where they are right now and where they'd like to go tomorrow. Thank you.
Great. Yes.
Lori, unfortunately, we are close to running out of time, and will not take any more questions, but we will be answering those in the chat. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to get some of our other centers online, but it's time for you to please wrap us up.
Sure. All right. The webinar will be archived at our OSEP Ideas That Work website, and we're hoping to have that up shortly. And then any additional questions that you have that you would like answered, you could go to osep-meeting@air.org. So as Renee just said, our time is almost over. So again, thank you to the presenters and participants. We hope you will find the resources shared today helpful as we continue to navigate these challenging times. Through our funded investments, OSEP is committed to supporting your continued efforts to improve services and supports for our infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their families. Our next webinar will be held on June 29th from 2 to 3 Eastern Standard Time. We plan to highlight a new set of resources and include some examples of stakeholders putting those resources into practice. So we look forward to seeing you all then, and a very special thank you to my OSEP staff and to the AIR staff for helping us with this webinar today. Thank you for attending.
Perfect timing.